All right, guys, so today we're going to add phase shifts to our extensive knowledge of graphing. Does anybody work on the practice last night and have questions? We could certainly do one as a warm-up if somebody needed me to, or we could just hope that this tablet works here at some point. There we go. Anybody need a warm-up? Nope. All right, let's, this is the one that I wanted to start with. You don't have to necessarily graph this, maybe I will to help, but this is at the bottom of 14A. Everybody find it? All right, this is the first example of a phase shift. Remember we talked yesterday here, I don't know what I'm doing. I hope I didn't delete anything. We filled this in yesterday, right? That if it was x plus h, it shifted left, and x minus h, it shifted right. Okay. The other thing that you need to know about phase shifts is how to find quarter points, because you're going to have to add that quarter point distance on to the phase shift, okay? So it's going to be phase shift plus quarter points to figure out each quarter point. Now, if you shift, is it still going to finish at what we think of as a period? Okay, so if the period is 2 pi, the graph is no longer going to finish at 2 pi. Does everybody understand that? The distance from where it starts until it finishes will be a distance of 2 pi, but the last point will not be 2 pi. All right, can anybody tell me the amplitude of this number 8 here? Is the amplitude -2? No, it's absolute value, so it's 2. The negative does indicate that if we're graphing it, it would be an upside down cosine, so the shape would be like this. Okay. The period B in here is just 1. There's no B in front of the parenthesis. So the period is 2 pi, because remember it's always 2 pi over B. This one has a phase shift of pi over 3, but is it left or right, guys? It is right pi over 3. The vertical shift, it does unfortunately also have a vertical shift of up 1 on the back. Everybody see that +1 back there? All right, we haven't talked about domain and range for a while. Tell you what, I'm going to graph this. You don't need to. You can just watch. I don't know that you have a lot of room. If I had to graph this, I would start with my midline of y equals 1. The amplitude is 2, so its maxes will be at 3, and its mins will be at 2 below 1 would be -1. Okay. If I shift it to the right pi over 3, since there is no spit it out, Hofbauer. Since there is no graph paper, we could just draw the shape if we want. It starts at the minimum, goes here, maximum, and back down, okay? Got a little carried away there. All right, so if the period is 2 pi, the quarter points are 2 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 2. And if we shifted right pi over 3, we need to figure out what that next quarter point is. All right, if you're fraction phobic, how's that? If you hate fractions, use your calculator, just don't type the pi. So what is 1/2 plus 1/3? Well, this would be 3, 6, and 2, 6 if we got a common denominator. So did someone do it on their calculator? 1/2 plus 1/3, math, enter, enter. I can do it if you need me to here, if I can get my calculator to open up. 1/2 plus 1/3, 5, 6, yes? Okay, I'll do the next one on here. I'll tell you what. Okay, the quarter points were the 1/2s, right? The quarter points were the 2/4 or 1/2s. So if we're going to start at 5, the next quarter point here is going to be 5, 6. Okay, that's where it crosses the midline. Started at pi over 3, 5, 6 is the next one. We need to add a 1/2 onto that because these were the quarter points. That's what we're going to keep adding, are those quarter points. So if I were at 5, 6, and I add 1/2, which is really a pi over 2, okay, I get a 4/3. And then I'm going to add a 1/2 again. And I get 11/6. So the next two are 4/3 and 11/6. And then I could add a 1/2 one more time. Seven thirds. Now, how far is it from 1/3 to 7/3? If you subtract, that is a distance of 6/3, yes? Which is 2 pi. Is that what our period is supposed to be? Okay, so it doesn't finish at 2 pi. The distance from where it started to ended was 2 pi. All right, I'm not going to write all those ordered pairs, but remind me, if we subtracted 1/3 minus 1/2, it wouldn't cross till over here somewhere, I think. It'd be negative. But this continues, yes, guys? Even if we don't label more points. So help me, domain and range. Left to right, we don't hardly ever graph it this way, but the domain is actually negative infinity to infinity. Everybody okay that it would continue left to right? We just don't ever graph it that way because we don't want to keep doing points forever. Okay, the range is bottom to top, and it should have square brackets, -1 to 3. Everybody okay? All right, this is a disgusting display. I will tell you on the quiz, I don't think I gave you one that has both a vertical shift and a phase shift. The homework probably has some, but I think on the quiz I was a little more generous. Okay, this one is not as bad as it looks. I think we can do this one. Tell me for number 9 what you know. Tell me something you know. Star, can you tell me anything? Okay. Natalie, can you tell me anything? The period is 2 pi because there's no b in here. Anybody tell me is there a vertical shift? No. What about a phase shift? Left pi. Okay. And the shape for sine starts at the midline, right? Okay. So let's see, we're supposed to go left pi, so I'm going to leave myself some room here. It's going to start at negative pi. But I don't think I want to draw this until I figure out where it crosses the y at. Does that make sense, guys? Because is it, going to cross through 0, 0? What's going to happen? The quarter points, well, the period is 2 pi, so we divide by 4, and we get a pi over 2. So can you tell me without the calculator, if you start at negative pi and you add a pi over 2, think about this as -1 and you add a 1/2. Yes? What did I do? Okay. I probably did something wrong. Please never be afraid to tell me I did something wrong. All right, it's going to start at negative pi, but if we add a pi over 2 to negative 1, guys, what's negative 1 plus 1/2? Negative 1/2 still? And then if we add another 1/2, we get 0. So it is going to cross the x-axis. Okay. If we add another 1/2, we'd be at positive pi over 2. All right, we're supposed to start here. So the amplitude is 3. I'm just going to make a number up here and call it 3. So it's going to hit 3 there. And then where's it going to be when it crosses? If it's a quarter point for a sine graph, it's going to go back here, right? Because the quarter points are where it hits maxes and mins and midlines. So we'd have negative 3 for where it hit a min. And what's the next quarter point? Negative 1, negative 1/2, 0, 1/2, and just 1 pi. All right. Antoine, can you give me one ordered pair? I don't care which one it is. What's the name of that ordered pair right there? Negative pi and up 0, right? Who's got this one? Okay, the next one is super easy. This blue dot right here in the middle is 0, 0. And then the next one, anybody? Pi over 2, negative 3. And then we finished at pi 0. Is that a period of 2 pi? If you went from negative pi to positive pi, I keep messing that up. But if you went from negative pi to positive pi, that's a total distance of 2 pi. Everybody's good? Okay. Let's try number 10. Ryan, can you tell me one thing? Anything? Yep, the amplitude is 1. Emma, can you tell me one thing? Say that again. There's nothing in here, so the B is 1, so the period is, there we go, 2 pi, good job. Does it have a vertical shift and or phase shift? Riley, can you tell me one or the other? Good job. Anybody feel this one in this? Oh, I wrote that in. Yep, thank you. And the phase shift is right pi over 4. Okay. Now, if the period is 2 pi, the quarter points are every pi over 2. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it 2/4 this time because this is going to have a common denominator than a 4, right? It'll be easier to do. All right. I'm going to draw it over here. I know you guys don't have a lot of room, so let's see. Oh, no, I'm going to move that. It's shifted right, so I can put that way over here. Okay. It is shifted up 2. Let me try that again, too. I'm going to go. The amplitude is only 1, right? So it goes from 2 to 3 to 1. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, the shape, if it's a cosine, is maximum to maximum. So it's going to shift right pi over 4. Now, if the quarter points are every 2 pi over 4, where's the next quarter point? Guys, 1/4 plus 2/4 is 3/4 plus 2/4 more is 5/4 plus 2/4 more is 7/4 plus 2/4 more is 9/4. Okay, now when I go to graph it, it starts at the maximum, midline, minimum, midline, maximum. Okay. Yeah, that's a hot mess, but hope you get the right idea. I didn't do a good job. That's supposed to still be a 3. It definitely looks too high. All right. Ben, can you give me an ordered pair? Good job. Star, can you give me an ordered pair? Adriella, can you give me an ordered pair? Good job. Adrian, can you give me an ordered pair? Aiden, sorry. Either Aiden, go ahead. Two, right? Is that what you said? And other Aiden? All right. Okay, we got another one here with number 11. And I think 12 actually is, we could have done 12 as a warm-up. That one doesn't have a phase shift, right? And then we just got a couple of practice. All right, so this is our last one with a phase shift. I'll just go through this so we can get done quickly here. The amplitude is 3. There's no B value in here, so the period is 2 pi. It is shifted left pi over 2. Yep, that's in the wrong spot again. And the vertical shift is up 1. Just so you know, when I graph, I would start with the midline, even if you're going to use the x-axis and renumber it. Okay, always start with the midline. Then I look at the amplitude. Then I look at the phase shift, left or right. And then I start worrying about adding quarter points, which comes from the period, right? Okay, so that's kind of the order that I do things. So, oh, I have to shift left. We'll make that work. Okay, so 1 is my midline. I'm supposed to go 3 above that. So the maxes are going to be at 4. What's 3 below 1, guys? So 1 down to 0 to -1 to -2. Okay. And I'm going to start over here at left pi over 2, but I have to figure out what's happening for the quarter points. So 2 pi is the period, divided by 4 becomes pi over 2. So we're going to add pi over 2 to negative pi over 2 to get the quarter points. So if we start at negative pi over 2 and we add a pi over 2, we're at 0, right? So there's going to be one right on this line. If we add another pi over 2, we're going to be at positive pi over 2. Add another pi over 2, and we'll be, let's see, this will be at 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Add another pi over 2, we're at 3 pi over 2. Now, normally we'd add another pi over 2 and be at 2 pi, but because it shifted, I don't think we're going to need that one, right? It's going to finish before 2 pi. All right, what's the shape for a sine graph? Starts at the midline, okay? Then at the maximum, back to the midline, minimum, back to the midline, and we're done, right? Okay, my points are not very evenly spread. Ordered pairs, negative pi over 2, 1, 0, 4, positive pi over 2, 1, pi, negative 2, and 3 pi over 2, 1. Is the period 2 pi? Did we get it right? From negative 1/2 to positive 3/2. Is that a distance of 2 pi? Well, it's 3/2 back to here and another 1/2 here. That's 4/2 or 2 pi, right? All right, let's practice a little bit of, oh, well, let's do this one super quick. You guys do, oh, this one has a gross period, yes? Midline is down at 2, so vertical shift is down 2. So negative 2. But the amplitude is only what? 1. Now, it's a cosine graph, so it doesn't have a shift left or right, so I could just go ahead and draw the cosine shape. It should go from negative 1 to negative 3. The period is not 2 pi this time. It's what? 2 pi over b, and the b is 3. Lovely. So because there's no phase shift, it should finish at 2 pi over 3, but we got to figure out those quarter points. Remember, to get quarter points, it's period divided by 4. So 2 pi over 3 divided by 4 is the same as times 1/4, which is 2 pi over 12, or pi over 6, okay? So we're going to count by pi over 6s. This is going to be 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6. What's 2/6 reduced to, guys? Pi over 3. And then the next one is 3/6, or 1/2. And the next one should be 4/6, or 2/3. We good? All right, so the ordered pairs, the first one is across 0 and down 1. Then to the right, pi over 6, and it's down at negative 2. To the right, pi over 3, and it's down at negative 3. To the right, pi over 2, and it's back up to negative 2. And to the right, 2 pi over 3, and it's back up to negative 1. I managed to squeeze those in there. And if you don't put the marks up here, you put them, label the points right on here. I don't care which way you do it. All right, so that one had a vertical shift and not a phase shift. All right. Write a sine function with the given characteristics. Okay, so we're going to put into this equation, it says sine, so we'll use sine. Okay, that's the equation. Where are we going to put an amplitude in for? Anybody? A is 2. The period is 4. Okay, that doesn't mean we put a 4 in there, though. Do you remember that? Okay, if the period is 2 pi divided by b, that also means b is the 2 pi divided by the period, okay? Because if we cross multiply, we could divide by the other one. All right, so we need b if the period is 4. So what is that going to be? Pi over 2. So we're going to write sine pi over 2, because that would make the b, I'm sorry, that would make the period become 2 pi divided by pi over 2, or 2 pi times 2 over pi, which would be 4. All right, phase shift of 1/2. Oh, I'm so glad we don't have to graph this. It's a positive 1/2, so we actually put it in as minus 1/2. If I were giving you this question, I would tell you left or right, but they want it to go right, so we're going to put in minus. When we go to type these in the calculator at some point, you do need extra parentheses. And then a vertical shift, I would say again up 4, so you put plus 4. All right, who can try to talk me through this next one? Yep. Okay, it doesn't change the period, so we just put a 1 in there for B, or we can just not worry about it. And then what? Yep, this is assuming we're going right. Nice job. All right. I need to look at the lesson plan because I don't remember if there's something else I have to go over today. Today we will look at phase shifts on Delta Math. 14.14b we did, and then it says 15b, but I think that's your homework, right? 15b, and then there's some Delta Math graphing part 2. That's what I need to talk about. Okay. 8, 10, and 14. Okay. Let me copy this and go back here and put in a slide for you. Where's my little add a slide? Okay. So this is what you got to do tonight. 3 on there and then trig graphing. But I thought I put a slide in here. I did. Okay. Did I say that something wrong? It's 8, 10, 14. Yes. I don't know what I said. I probably said it wrong. 8, 10, 14. Okay. Then you have a Delta Math assignment on trig graphing. And I need to talk to you about this because this is what it looks like. Okay. It'll say, make an appropriate scale and graph exactly 1 cycle of this trig function. All right. I'm going to go into Delta Math now and we'll try one together. So Delta Math, should have had this open already. I apologize. Sample student page, second period. Which one is it? Part 2? Okay. So let's try a level 2 here. I don't know. Okay. So we have to pick a scale. If the amplitude is 12, guys, if the amplitude is 12, do we want to count by 1s? Or you want to count by like 2s? Can we count by 2s? Is that okay with everybody? All right, then we need to figure out what the x scale is going to be. You have two options. They always base it on one period. I would rather you did quarter points, but it's up to you. Okay, if B is 2/3, I'm going to go back here so that I can write. If B is 2/3, then the period is 2 pi divided by 2/3, or 2 pi times 3/2, which would become what? 3 pi? Everybody okay? So the period is 3 pi. So they would say you could put a 3 pi in here and figure out where that is. I'm going to put in 3 pi over 4. Because then I am going to graph, I'm going to say done, and I'm going to say this is a 3 pi over 4. The graph is a cosine, so it starts up at 12. It goes through 3 pi over 4, and then it goes down to -12, back here, up to the top. I put in the quarter points, okay, so that it's counting by 3 pi over 4. I'll show you how you can do it the way they do it as well. So if I submit that, it's right. Okay. Let me go back and try a level 4. No, 3, there's not a 4 assigned. Okay. So this, I think I have enough room to count by, oh, I don't know. I got to slide it down 4, right, guys? So I don't think I want to count by ones because then it's going to go down. Okay, you're going to have to help me. I'm going to say 2. 2 pi divided by 2 pi over 5. B was 2/5, is that right? Did anybody remember? So the period is 2 pi divided by 2 pi over 5. No, 2/5, sorry. Or 2 pi times 5/2, which would just be 5 pi. Now, I would say count by 5 pi over 4 for the quarter points, but I'll show you the way they do it. They just do 5 pi, and then you say done, but you want to drag this to the end, because you're going to say, I'm going to finish at 5 pi, okay? Now, a cosine starts at the maximum. Oh, you got to have to sketch this out on paper maybe, but from -4, if I go up 6, I would be at 2. Then I would be back at the midline of -4. Then if I go down 6, I'd be at -10. Back at the midline, and then at the maximum again. Do you see this time I just set it out at the 4th point, or 5th point, and called that the period instead of doing quarter points? And either one is fine, okay? But the fun part is you don't have to label every single one on here. You just have to label one or the other, okay? Think you can do that? All right, so again, the homework is these 3 problems on worksheet 15, and then the trig graphing part 2 that is in Delta Math, okay? Please don't get behind on your Delta Math.